Our first speaker. Well, a little aside, because I happen to have personal knowledge of most of our speakers today. Not carnal knowledge, but we'll work on it. It's Father's Day, you know. I've known this young lady for a few years. We've, through biker mayhem and this, that, and the other, and upside down cakes and weird stuff. I mean, a lot of fun. Interesting girl, interested me, and in her views on things, very militant, kind of can put people off, can kind of bring people in, but she has 4,000 Facebook friends, so that must mean something. And at the end of the day, she is a lady that went through a life-changing experience in Wales. Though Sacha, our speaker, is known for her Infomaniac website and all this, and a lot of her funny asides and politically based kind of, a lot of I agree with, observations of the world in which we live, something caused a turning point in her life. And when I asked her to participate in the event, because she really hasn't done that many of the conferences like this with good-looking fellas like Mr. Timothy Good over there, and that's the facts, you know, so and I thought she needs to start at the start. What happened to you? She agreed and has never done this. And boy, I've gotten a preview and I think you're going to enjoy it and also feel what it's like to go through these life-changing experiences. It's what makes us who we all are, if you are an experiencer. A little background on Mrs. Sacha Christie, or Ms. Sacha is the UK director of ICAR, director of all kinds of things, UFO Witness and Contactee Support Network, and a consultant member of AMMACH, that's the one. In 1997, while on holiday with friends in the Welsh countryside, Sacha witnessed 2 UFOs on the ground and behind them. All members of the group were deeply affected by this event, which was the catalyst for Sacha remembering a lifetime of UFO experiences that continue to this day. And it's my honor to launch this event, the rebirth of this event. Contrary to Pinky and Perky must be dancing on the clouds of angst, Ms. Sacha Christie, and it's an honor to have
Just have a little drink of water before I start. I can't actually believe I'm here, to be honest. I only went to Wales for a weekend. I must have taken a wrong turn somewhere. Well, my story starts really in 1982. I was 12 then, and I saw a UFO with my mum out in North Humberside, and we were bringing the washing in. And she said, "Oh, look at that!" And there's this little light just zipping around. We had the radio on. We could hear that other people were reporting seeing this. And then later that year, with friends, I was playing at the end of the street where we lived in this little village. And we were up a rope swing and we saw these 3 crop circles. So, bearing in mind this is nowhere near Wiltshire, it's at the complete opposite end of the country. 1982 as well, obviously nobody had ever really heard of them. So we jumped off the rope swing, we were running around them, and they were absolutely perfect. I mean, they were like somebody had just pressed on, everything was woven together, and we were bouncing about because it was so, you know, springy. And the farmer comes out and tells us off and running around in his corn, and we asked him what it was, and he said, well, it was caused by mini tornadoes in the corn, which we believed, and we ran off, and I never thought anything more of it until about 1999 when I saw, or maybe a little bit earlier than that, when I saw some in UFO magazine. I thought, I've seen that. But the thing that strikes me is when I look back, is that in the field was fine, apart from these 3 crop circles, so there wasn't a path for a tornado to have come in, so there were, you know, the crop circles, some of them, I must say, but not all of them, are totally genuine, and I know because I've seen them myself. So, you know, I always believed, never, you know, my mum, she kind of had all Eric Von Daniken's books, I read all them by the time I was about 13, 14, after seeing the UFO. So, you know, that was really where it started, but, you know, we have all these different, you know, we see these things, and people who see them generally have experiences, even if they know or they don't know. I don't know why people become so obsessed with the topic if they've never actually seen a UFO or had any interaction with the occupants. And also, the whole kind of umbrella that it comes under of alien abduction, I think it's a bit of a misnomer really, because we have all kinds of experiences. I know that when I talk to people, we have like astral travel, weird dreams that feel real, downloads, you know, waking up with bruising, and it all comes under alien abduction, which is just, you know, it's like saying that all people from India and Pakistan are just Asians. It's like there's too many variations in there for it actually to be lumped under one thing. So that's one of the things that I want to change in the subject, is that we need to sort of be a little bit more definitive about things. You know, I don't even know really what it means when people say alien abduction, because we don't really know what it is that's going on, or we know what happens is abduction is the one moment when you're taken. We could be called alien returnees just as much as like really abductees. So those two words have just turned people's brains blind completely, instantly. You know, they'll laugh without thinking, they'll snort, or, you know, it's almost instant. So there's no thought process to it. It's a reaction that's been given to us, you know, it's been parodied for so long. And even though that we've had this subject has been such a joke to everybody, everything on TV is based around it. All the children's programmes, the ones that my children watch, are all about aliens or people with magic powers or the mutants of some kind. It's all there, it's all the time. And it's not, you know, it used to be laughed at, but I think that that is kind of changing now, because before we used to have researchers doing all the work, and we were the ones that were waiting for the answers. We would say, this is my story, this is what's happened to me, I need some help. And they would say, right, well, if we talk to this person, we put it in this magazine, or whatever, we might be able to get you some, but there isn't any, because there's no answers. So, even though we've got all this massive pile of bodies, you know, there was all these jokes about it, and now it's shifted because it's the witnesses that are now doing the research. And we're not laughing, you know. Most of us are screaming out in the dark, saying, what the hell is going on? And we're actually totally denied any truths. We're not even acknowledged by anyone in society, apart from people like you. You know, we're just totally marginalised. There's no support. There's nowhere to turn to. When you know, you can't manage in your life, you can't function in the world that hardly functions anyway by itself. So, you know, and we're just kind of like bumbling around, trying to find some answers. And thankfully now we're all coming together. We're actually talking and finding out the similarities and trying to figure things out from there. And I've made some quite interesting discoveries talking to people about you know, the things that they've seen and how that is applied in normal life, which I might have time to talk about later. So the only reason that you do start talking is because you're absolutely desperate and you can't understand what's happening, you want answers, but then you find yourself in a complete world of nonsense, because the only place you can go to is the internet. And you've got every kind of nut job on there, you know, and it's just, I hear some really funny things like, you know, you've got to give your love and light away and all this. And it's like, give your love away, but keep your light, that's yours, you need that, you know. So I think there's some good concepts out there that are getting a bit bent out of shape. And you've got the Light Being Brigade and all their channel messages from the Pleiades, and, you know, and think nice things and the world will get better, because, you know, it's all in that energy. And our negativity is the one that's fueling the situation or causing all the problems in the world. But I just think that's rubbish. They're the sort of people I want to punch on the nose and say, transcend the fear, the pain and the anger and that shock and horror, you know, it was a lesson. So these people actually call themselves awakened and enlightened, you know, but they're also the quickest ones to lose their minds and the temper, so I found that quite funny. So you're sort of swimming around in all this soup of people's like imaginings, or this new philosophy that we're all kind of looking for, because we can see how small and vulnerable we are now on this little tiny planet in all this vast blackness, you know. And so I think we've kind of felt our size, and we've also lost sight of God, especially because we can't see him up there with Hubble. So, you know, we're kind of like, everyone's mashing these new ideas together, trying to find a new philosophy that works for this kind of, you know, this, whatever it is that's going on, there's definitely something changing. I don't want to call it the shift or whatever, because I can't do with all that language. I just don't even know what they really mean by it, because there's so many things attached to that as well. So, you know, when we're talking about this subject, we have all these words that mean something else now. So, for me, I'm kind of, in a literal sense, I really don't know what they're talking about. And none of it actually relates to my existence either, because the things that have happened to me are not, you know, these ascending, fluffy encounters that people say they have. They're actually quite dark and, you know, frightening. Well, the ones that I can recall are, you know, sometimes I'll wake up, I've got bruises and I don't know where they've come from. And I will be touching back on that soon anyway. So we have all these reasons given to us about what's happening, you know, and they're as intangible as the subject itself. You know, we're told it's DMT at 3 o'clock in the morning, or it's, you know, sleep paralysis, whatever that is. Nobody can give us even Simon Sherwood, he's done an entire study on it, I've read his thesis, and there's no answers to even what that is, but that's given to us as an explanation, but even though nobody knows what that is, so it's, you know, and each one of these answers are the DMT, paralysis, blah, 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 they're all usually lumped together and given to us all at once, because you can take one by itself, it can't even stand on its own legs for 2 seconds. You know, so we're giving these scattergun explanations of, it's this, 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 or this, and it's like, well, which one is it? Because it can only be one, but there are no answers. So, you know, and another one that I like is mass hallucination, because there's absolutely no such thing. It's impossible. I've looked into it, and there's no such thing. And, you know, when you're kind of in Wales on a wet February night, and you're wide awake, you know, none of those explanations actually stand up, because we saw what we saw with our own eyes while we were awake about 7:30 in the evening. So it was February 97, we decided to go away for a last minute break. We went to a lovely little cottage in Wales, and we'd done it a few times. We went camping in the summer. In the winter we get a little, you know, cheap off-season cottage, and we'd all go stay there. So on this weekend with my boyfriend at the time, Steve, and his sister Danya, and their uncle John. Danya had her son with her, and I had my son with me. So there were 6 of us all together. Excuse me. So what happened is I'm upstairs, and I'm unpacking, or just about to get bath, I can't really remember. And Steve shouts me down. And I could hear there was some kind of urgency in his voice, so I thought, because the kids were making loads of noise, they were fighting or something. So I come barrelling down the stairs, and he stood in the door, he's like, come outside. He's going, look, and he's pointing off in the distance, and I'm saying, can't see anything. It's dark, it's Wales, there's no street lights. And all we've got is this thick cloud cover that's going right across, for all as far as you can see. It had been raining the day before, all day. It wasn't raining at the time, but it was still thick cloud cover. And then eventually I saw this tiny flicker, and I said, it's lightning, and he said, it's not, watch it. So because I pinpointed it, I kept watching, and it came on again, and it came on again, and it had a definite uniform pattern to it, and we were like, oh wow, brilliant, look at that, you know, and then all of a sudden it stopped moving off to our right, and it kind of zigzagged really slowly towards us. Now I kind of begun to think that maybe it was following a valley or something like that, because, you know, that gravitational pull effect that people talk about. I thought maybe that was, you know, afterwards I thought that that's what we were maybe doing. But I didn't know the layout, I couldn't even really remember where we were afterwards. So eventually this UFO, it comes to be right above us, right above the house. And I can show you. And that's pretty much what it looked like. Now, we've had to reverse the image of this because we couldn't get to the front of the house when we went to take the photographs and do a little bit of filming. Because it's now not a holiday cottage by the looks of it. It looks like somebody actually lives there and we don't want to go stomping around all over the place. There were some outbuildings here that we remember having a rummage around. They were all just ramshackle, but they've all been turned into dwellings now. So we were stood underneath this, looking up at it, directly up at it. And then a little while later, I don't know how long we've been there, time just doesn't really mean anything when you're in these situations. There was a strobe light, and by this time, everybody had come outside. We had, you know, we pulled them all out. The kids were a little bit nervous, but we kept telling them that it was the lights from a tractor reflecting off the clouds, because it was actually hidden within the clouds. You know, we couldn't actually see the craft itself. This is just to give you an idea. We could see the lights, basically, and they were coming through the clouds, and it made it, because of the different densities, the clouds looked, it looked like a kind of jellyfish rippling in the clouds. But then, a little while later, there was a strobe, just really quick, like that, and we turned around and I went, oh look, there's another one. And there was a sphere that had landed on the floor, so you can see my hood. Just about where the peak of my hood is there, that had been where the sphere was. And that was just pulsing this grey-white light and emitting a mist. So, you know, I said, oh, look, you know, there, look, there's another one. And everybody looked at it and went, oh yeah, and then promptly turned back and looked up at the sky and totally forgot about the one on the floor. I never get my head around that. Why, how? We forget. Why were we not worried? Why was this not impacting us in any way, shape or form? It was like we were watching some fireworks, literally. It was like bonfire night. So, we're stood all in the line, we're looking up at this thing here. I've got my son who's next to me, and he tugs on my clothes and he says, Mummy, a hand's just come through the hedge and touched my foot. It wasn't my imagination, I saw it with my eyes. And then he said, at first I thought it was the hedge, but then I saw it was a hand. So I turned to Steve and I said, oh, the kids are getting scared. He said, let's take him inside. Now, if he said that he thought there was a monster under his bed, I would have showed him that there wasn't a monster under his bed. The thought of looking never occurred to me, or Steve, or anyone. We just went back inside. And as soon as we got inside, Steve starts doing the washing up, Daniel and John go to watch TV, and the kids start playing. So I was just looking at everybody thinking, what are you doing? You know. So I said, oh, jump this, I'm off outside again. So I went stomping back off outside. Don't know what possessed me. Why would you even do that? Why wouldn't anybody say, no, don't do that, or I'll come with you, or anything? So I stomped straight back up the garden, and I'm stood right underneath it again, and I'm like this. But now what? You know. And they had some running behind me. 2 fast feet. Don't care what anyone says. They were 2 feet. Yes, it could have been a sheep. Yes, it could have been one of the children. It could have been a dog on 2 legs juggling with a little ruffle around its neck. But, you know, whatever it was, ran up behind me, bumped into my back, and then I was running. But I was absolutely blind. I could not see a thing, nothing. I was just totally blind. And I was actually running. When I realised I was already running. And I ran back in the house, and I was totally freaked out. You know, and I said to Steve, well, this has happened, and he just went, well, you haven't been out there long, so you haven't had any missing time. So I was like, well, I don't care. Shut the door, windows, locked, bar, everything, bar ourselves in. It absolutely ruined my head, that. And everybody, it took me 13 years to find everyone, because we all fell out after that. We actually fell out that weekend. Steve and I, we phoned a taxi, we booked a coach, and we sneaked off at 4:30 in the morning, down to the village to get into the taxi to go to Wrexham, to get the coach home to Leeds, and we left John and Danny there without even leaving a note because it was just awful, everyone was just fighting. So we sneaked off, and when 13 years later I found them, and I was like, please tell me that this happened differently, I've misremembered it. No, both of them said exactly the same thing. Only Daniel said when they tried to leave the next day, the car wouldn't start. And they were stuck there another night, you know, and she was absolutely terrified. And the next day the car was fine, so make of that what you will. So I'd not been back to Wales for 14 years. I didn't want to ever go there again. Part of me did, I kept saying I would go back, but I don't know, I didn't want to. And when I spoke to Steve, we talked about going back together because John, who was their uncle, became so badly affected by this that he actually took his own life 3 years ago. You know, and I was in the place where, for a long time, I didn't want to be alive either, because I couldn't understand anything anymore. I realised that the life we live is not what we're told. That there's absolutely nothing between the floor and anything else out there. And if anything wants to come down here and do whatever it wants to, it can, and no one can stop it. And that is one hell of a thing to get your head around, you know. And so when I found them, and I was talking to them, I talked to Steve on the phone for about 3 hours, because they lived in Spain, which is why I couldn't find them anywhere in England. And I said to him, how did it leave you feeling? And he said, totally raw and exposed, stripped to the bone. And, you know, I thought, well, that's how I felt. And when Danya's moved back to England now, so I've met up there a couple of times and we've talked. And she's the same. And then I realised that, wait a minute, I was the only person who went outside. I was the only person that had that fright. So why is everybody in the same state as me? Why? It must be that something else had occurred. What would they do? Would they just like, oh, well, they've all gone inside now, let's go? You know, when you start reading abduction literature, or at least even better still, talking to the people who it happens to, and not reading other people's versions of it, then you realise that there's something else going on. And if it isn't happening to you, it's happening around you, and it should be a cause for concern for everybody. Because this is unfair that we're just left to rot and laughed at, you know, sometimes. Thankfully, I've got people like you, I've got friends in the audience who've carried me. I've carried them. Lynn, Dave, you know, they've been there for me all of the time. Lynn was one of the first people that I actually spoke to about it in 2005 when I went on a forum called UFO Magazine, and it wasn't anything to do with the magazine, but it turned out that the people who owned the site actually lived just round the corner from me, and our children ended up going to the same school. So these are the little things, these little coincidences that keep you going because you think, no, that's too weird to ignore. So I'll cut to showing you the film. It's about 10 minutes long, and this is my trip back to Wales for the first time in 14 years. I'm just going to wander off and calm down a minute.
How are you feeling now?
I mean, everything in my heart is being like mad, my mouth is dry. I feel very anxious. Pheasant. I just can't believe that you see, I can't really remember where we were because everything was just blanked from my brain afterwards. So, you know, like, I didn't even realise how high up we were because I could never understand why the clouds were so low. You know, they seemed impossibly low, but if you see where we are now, we're like on the top of a mountain. So it's
In 300 yards at the T-junction, turn right.
And I just have no idea. I just couldn't remember anything. Oh, there it is, there's a sign. Berwyn that way, Glencarriog this way. Which way to the UFO event? We could go to the Berwyn mountain crash, or we could go to my event.
Please follow the road for 2 miles.
Need a drink of water. Oh, God. It's just so weird, is this? My mouth is so dry, I feel so sick. This place absolutely changed my life. Forever. I'll tell you. Oh, shakes. Look at that. Serious. Okay.
Well, a mile to go yet.
In 160.
Look how spooky this is. Oh, lordy, lordy. Oh, ABS kicking. God. Proper horror movie place, isn't it? It all happened at the front of the house, but there's obviously somebody living here. done up, so it's all completely different. It's like they've built an extra bit onto the side of the house. This is the wall where we were all looking over, watching it come from over that way. The zigzag. I'm not sure, you know. It just looks so different, but all these outhouses are the things that we were rummaging around in them. You see that these are all dwellings now, but they weren't before.
What's all totally changed?
Yeah, it's like, well, these are all houses of just ramshackle buildings, and they've put an extra bit on. You can't see it at the front now. I wouldn't want to walk onto it because it's somebody's house, obviously, now. It all happened at the front there, so the UFO was like in between the chimneys at the other side, and so one of them landed just, but I can't see where it might have been because I don't know. Maybe I misremembered some stuff. I can't. But when I talked to Steve and Donnie, they remember the same things. I'm just cool. It just looks so different, but the same. This is where it all happened. It's so pretty. To me, it's been like a complete horror story. Just not. I don't understand how I was the only one who went outside by myself, why everyone was so traumatised, why were we all so scarred by it. If everybody just went back in the house and started watching TV, playing or washing up, it only happened to me, that fear thing, so it just doesn't make sense as to why everybody was so scarred, to the point where John's now dead, killed himself. My heart is thumping so hard. I remember it's like being punched. So this basically is where all the sheep were lying down. We were high up, we are so high. That, I mean, I could never understand why it felt like the clouds were so low, you know, like completely sitting on our heads almost. Because when we looked up, it wasn't that high, it didn't seem that high above the house, but the cloud cover hid the machine itself, and because with the clouds were kind of all bumpy, the lights coming through it made it look like they were shining through a mashed potato. You know, that's the only way I can describe it. So it give it like a rippling, so it would kind of ripple through, which also made it look like a jellyfish in mashed potato. But so when I found Steve and Daniel after 13 years, and I couldn't find him anywhere, and I found they'd moved to Spain, I thought that I'd have some closure. I'd feel better when I heard it from somebody else. And I spoke to Steve on the phone for 3 hours, and Danya, she's moved back to England, and we've spent some time together, and none of us felt any better for speaking about it. I don't feel like I've had any closure from finding them and finding that they have the same memories, and now I've come back here. It's the same thing. I thought I'd feel different. I thought that, I don't know, I could lay some ghosts to rest, but it is just a house. It's not this entity like I have it in my head. But nothing's going to take it away. Nothing. Only answers. Who, what, where from, and why. And why does it keep happening? That's it. So, that trip back to Wales was really quite something. I mean, for a start, we'd stayed in a hotel. Dave wouldn't have booked us a hotel online, didn't pay much attention, to what he was doing. And he booked us a hotel, sent me the link to it, he'd done it online, and the hotel was called the Space Boutique. And I said to him, what are you joking? We're going into this most Victorian village in the entire world, and everything's called George, Victoria, the Grand, blah blah blah, apart from the hotel that we stay at. So we went up the hall to have a little look, go up the cable car and everything, and have our photograph taken. And so I thought I'd include this because we had our photograph taken in Victorian dress, and when we went in, we were having hysterics about it. And the woman asked us how much we'd been drinking, and we said nothing. We were time travellers. So we tried to get back to 1972 in reality. So we were waiting for this photograph to be developed, so we thought, we'll go in the pub next door because this thing was attached to the pub. So we walked around the corner and into the UFO museum. I was just like, I don't believe it. I'm like that is exactly what I was doing when the UFO came over the house in Wales. That is just absolutely nuts. So if you ever go to Llandudno, I suggest you go up to home and have a little look, because all these posters in the background say, have you been abducted, have you ever seen the UFO, blah blah blah. It's a hot spot around here. And I was like, no, Sherlock. So we spoke to Bob, who runs it, and he's a really nice guy. There's quite a lot of information there, so I thought it was great. We were getting photographs taken. So obviously I start babbling on the internet, to get to know people, and one of the first things I did was I came to Suffolk. Wanted to go for a trip around Rendlesham Forest. I'd heard about it. I'd heard about the story of this UFO landing on these military bases, and it was the most credible story that there was to me. And then I was, I came down with John Hanson, and we went to stay at Brenda's, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I'd only been talking for about a year, so I was really excited. I was like, Brenda Butler, total legend, gonna go stay at her house. So, but as soon as I got there, it started being a bit odd, It was in the kitchen, there's just the boards out, looking at all the photographs, I was just completely awestruck. But I've got something whizzing around me, and I could feel my hair moving with it. And I said something about it to Brenda, and then I felt like something just gone like that on my head. I didn't feel very well, so I thought, in my little love and light phase that I went through for a tiny bit, I was like, oh, take it off, I don't feel well. So eventually I went to bed. So I'm in Brenda's spare room, and got all my crystals and everything around me for protection and everything, because I was so superstitious. I was completely covered in them usually. So I've got a little piece of crystal under my bed, I've got this rosary wrapped around with a cross in my palm, and I'm like, I go to sleep. So I'm lying on my side, and the covers slip off, so I went like that, pulled them, and they went like that, and I went like that, and it went out my hand, and I sat up and I went, leave me alone! And I threw myself down like this, and then the next thing I know, boom, my feet are grabbed, and I pulled down the bottom of the bed. And that was all I remembered. I woke up in the morning, I heard Brenda getting up, and I came barrelling out. Do you remember this, Brenda? I came barrelling out of that room like wild woman of wonder. It's probably the most scariest thing you've ever seen, But I never even put that down to an abduction or anything, because how would I even know? I'd only been talking for a year. But then, I think it was last year, I was talking to a friend, and he said that when they took him, pulled him by his feet, so I thought, well, that totally validate Brenda then, because it's happened to me as well. And everybody I've talked to that's stayed at Brenda's house, they all go, oh yeah, something, I saw this, I saw that, or this happened, or that happened. So, you know, there's something very strange going on. And it's definitely centres around people like us. And I think the more that we get together, you know, the more we either understand or something occurs, but it's always like something that gives you a clue as to what is going on. So, you know, even though I've been terrified out of my wits at times, when I look back at it, I think, well, actually, what was so terrible about it? It's just that fear factor that we're fed. So, it's just a very, very... So, yeah, then Russell Callahan and Phil Mantle heard about my story. And I've been writing for Southend UFO Group. Matt Dalton asked me to write a couple of articles for him, and I thought, wow, this is all brilliant, isn't it? So I was fancied being a UFO researcher. I thought it'd be really exciting, travelling to all these foreign countries all the time, looking at where UFOs had landed, and sort of like that as well. So I said, so I started writing for UFO Data magazine. I'd never written anything before, really, not properly. I didn't even go to school much. You know, so when I found, because I've been a chef, and I've been doing that for like 15 years, and broke my leg, so I couldn't do it anymore. And I was at home all the time, I was bored, couldn't work, couldn't walk. I'd ruptured my knees, so it wasn't a simple break, it was a really complicated injury. So I bought a computer, and I've never even switched one on before, but you know, you can't even get me off it now. Practically hardwired together. But then, so I started writing these articles, and I thought I'm quite good at this, even though my grammar was terrible. Steve said it was like reading Klingon with all the apostrophes that I was putting everywhere. So I managed to sort that out a little bit, but I found that talking was the thing that I did best anyway. Well, actually, procrastination is my most finer point, but yeah, talking. But then when you start talking, you do start having more experiences. Like I said, I've got one of Brenda's. And in fact, I've got some pictures here. From going around the forest with Brenda, and I did a proper scuba diving with this one because we were. What track was it? Was it track 10? Yeah. And this is Jean, Brenda's friend, and that's me, and we don't know who that is. Ian took the photograph and he went, who's that? And we went, oh, it's yikes. No idea. I've had some explanations as to what it might be, but none of them seem even remotely possible. So we don't know why that's happened. We don't know if it's some kind of crazy glitch that has happened because there's something going on underground and it's affecting the technology, or if that was something that turned up to have a laugh with us and frightened us after death because where do you run to in a forest? Nowhere. So. This is what I mean, the interference that you get when you're taking photographs. There's obviously something electrical that's interfering there, but you've got the orbs as well, you know. So I don't know what's going on in there. There's something is, because it affects. Look at this. That's that Eastgate. And there we are. Terrible two twins. So the next thing I found myself, I'm in Lincoln. And I've gone to stay with Anne Andrews. She kind of took me under her wing when I came out of the closet. And, you know, Jason had very similar experiences to me and ended up going to stay there. And I was reviewing a conference that Paola Harris was speaking at for the Norfolk UFO Society. And that was brilliant as well, because I was staying at Anne's and I was all like, excited, everything's just, you know, amazing. So Paola, when we got there, was saying, I am not staying in this house another night, forget it, I'm checking into a hotel, it's too weird here. So me and Paul drove her off to a travel lodge, got back, and Anne's going, so who's going to sleep in Jason's room then? And I went, oh, I will, you know. And so I went to bed and I put my dictaphone there, voice activated, you know, just in case. So weird the things that you do. And then I went to sleep. And then I was aware that my covers were being pulled off. I could hear the material and everything, I could feel it, everything. But I was still asleep, but I wasn't asleep, it was weird. And then something just came straight over the top of my face, from here, over my head. It sucked all the air out of my lungs, completely like being shrink wrapped. And I panicked, obviously, you would. And I know I did, because I know I kicked my legs, because like I said, I ruptured my knee. And the pain in it, I've had operations since to knit it all back together with, you know, bits of tendon, etc. But at the time, there was nothing holding the two bits together or separating them. So if I kicked, I was hurting myself. And that hurt. But then I just went absolutely freezing cold. And I went cold from the skin all the way through. And I actually felt my heart freeze. And at that point in time, I thought I was a goner. I thought that was it, I'm dead. You know, it wasn't even, I didn't really even have time to think that, but it was just like, you know, you would think that. That's why I would get so angry at people who say, transcend all your fear. You can't do that. If somebody attacks you in the street, what are you going to do? Just stand there going, no, it's okay. Yeah. You know, you don't, when you're waking up like that, then it's just horror. Then something cut, whatever it was that was cutting my, covering my face and mouth, and I could breathe again. And then I'm just lying on this surface, not quite sure what's going on. I know I'm in a house full of people, and I know that if I concentrated on my voice, which was really weak, I thought, if I just concentrate on shouting instead of trying to get up, someone will hear me and they'll come and, you know, somebody opens the door, whatever. You think it's kind of sort of like a paralysis thing you're going through. You can't take it in at the time. You don't know what's going on. So your rational mind's trying to tell you it's all right, this is what it is. If you do this, you know, you'll be fine. So I eventually shouted and nobody cared. And I know that I had my hand out like this, and I could feel something pinpricking, and I looked, because my head was over to this side, and I saw this black dog, and it was biting my hand, and his hair was long, and it was bouncing about like that, and everything was just blue. I was just surrounded by this blue, and it didn't, you know. Since then, I've actually remembered that here, in front of me, was a piece of hospital equipment. It's like a white thing in a stand that has a glass window in the front, with a red line through it, and a graph is plotting on this thing. So the next memory I've got is being stood up, and I'm standing in front of a little girl, and there's something behind her, but I couldn't pull it out at the time. I didn't know what it was. And I thought, you know, I just went to grab her because I'm a mum, you know, there's this little girl in this situation. And she just grinned at me, and her face completely changed. She still had the human skin, still had a little dress on and a teddy bear, long pigtails. But it was like, not reptilian, it was more like the mouth of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. You know, the whole thing that goes all the way around like this, and just the teeth all the way around. I recoiled, stepped back and looked at somebody. That was my only memory. Now, I remember now that there was a big blue lizard stood behind this girl. Now, I know that this dog was not really there, that can't have been happening. Everything else I can't even tell you, I don't even know what that was, whether it's memories that have been put there or things that I've actually seen. You just don't know. And I know that when, you know, these things happen, you do have your memories meddled with. Everybody does, like Larry, everybody, all of us that have had these experiences. We are all victims of mind control in the sense that memories are either erased, or, well, you can't erase a memory, you have to bury it, and sometimes they're buried under like 10, 11 fake memories. And this is what's being discovered with hypnosis now, that it's supposed to be an intangible science, it's supposed to be dangerous and bad for you, and that people just make things up just to please the person who was asking the questions. Well, that's rubbish as well, because I've looked into it. It's more exact than that. And yeah, anybody can become a hypnotherapist, and anyone can get inside your head, and anyone can mess your head up. But if somebody knows what they're doing, they can find the truth of the matter. I'm not brave enough to do that yet, and also I have a very young family. My youngest son is 4, and I can't go down that road because I have to keep myself together, because I'm a single mum, I live with them on my own. And so, you know, I'm going to have to wait to find out any answers. But I would be very careful if you decided to do that, who it would be that you go to have these memories uncovered, and please just make sure that you're in a place where you know how you react to things in life, so that you don't end up in a worse place than you've been already. So, you know, as to what's going on, I haven't got a clue really. I do know that the people that are talking about these things are not all loonies. You know, Bob Salas, you know, and all of the guys in the September press release, all of them had to be psychologically evaluated to the nth degree to be left in charge of nuclear weapons. Are these people all mad? I don't think so. Well, by the academics, the scientists, all of them, they're all crying out for information. Let us know. We want to know the technology that we could have. You know, all the rest of it. I mean, I'm not really an advocate of full disclosure because we aren't ready for it yet. You know, if we can't even accept abductees, there's no way that we're going to be able to handle that. So, you know, I don't want to push for full disclosure. I think it needs to be drip fed really. we can't even be nice to each other, you know. The stuff that I've had said to me over this past year especially is shocking, and these are comments from people who are supposed to be well-reasoned and emotionally balanced, you know, and I've just no time for that. So I think we need to stop arguing really, start listening, and we need to talk, because when you start talking, that's when you start finding out where the similarities are. I found out some very interesting things talking to people, and you also find out that you're not on your own and you're not a lunatic, and everybody who says that these things are happening to them, they're not either. You know, we just don't have any answers, so when people say, well, prove it or whatever, it's like, well, what is it? Well, we don't know. You know, and we never will know if we keep on fighting like this. So kind of, you know, and also, when you do start talking, you get other attention. And this is another thing that people really cannot get their head around. Some call it military abductions. I prefer to call it re-abductions, because I don't know that it is the military. But I do know that people who talk about their ET experiences are being picked up by someone else, and they are in uniform, and I've seen them for myself. And I've so many people who've seen it, and they're describing the same clothes. I've seen it. I've seen a picture that somebody drew on the net, and I nearly had a heart attack because I thought I'd had a dream. I was in I don't know what it was. I think it might have been a lift, to be honest. I used to think it was some sort of craft, but it was just like a round, you know, ceiling room, red emergency lighting, the kind of door here that have been, you know, with a thing on it, like you would have in a submarine with a big handle that turns. Here was a control panel, and I'm sat on a plastic chair that's just literally bolted to the wall, like one of these chairs here. No legs on it, just bolted to the wall. And he turned around to me and he went, don't worry, it won't take long to adjust. And turned back, and that was it. That's all I can remember. And I thought, well, that was a bit of a crazy ass dream. But then when you see a picture that somebody's drawn of exactly the same person, you know it's not. And it doesn't matter whether anyone believes me or not, because, well, it never would make a difference to anything that I'm going through or feeling. Having somebody else say, yeah, I believe you. You know, it's nice if they do, but if they don't, it doesn't change anything. So, you know, these military things, or whatever, I say the military because of the uniform, but I'm not sure that it is. I don't think, you know, maybe somebody above that, you know, we about shadow governments, etc. I don't know. Whenever anything's given a label, I tend to sort of look the other way, because everything's, whatever anybody calls something, the opposite is usually true. So, like we live in a democracy, that kind of thing, you know what I mean? So, because of all this, and because we're all floundering around with nowhere to go, I thought, and I was struggling. I didn't know what I needed. What do I need? I need to get better. I need something. I know I can't have any answers, but I know I can get better. I know I can learn to live with it if I have the right support or help or information. So I sort of turned to my Facebook page and I'm thinking, well, who have I got here? So I'm looking through, and I was talking to Larry already, and he's been a real saviour to me sometimes because his reactions are similar to mine. So when I see him go off on one, I know that I'm not the only one, and that's a little bit of company for me there. But then I've got friends who are psychologists who work with Vietnam vets who work with post-traumatic stress disorder, which is what most of us suffer from. And Peter Robbins as well, he was there. I said, I want to set this group up, and please tell me that if I'm doing anything that's going to really, like, you know, shoot myself in the foot legally, you know, because how can you even give people information? If somebody decides to go off and kill themselves after you've been talking to them, you're the one who's going to get the blame for that, not the actual issue that's going on. So it's like eggshells everywhere, eggshells with bits of glass. So you have to be really careful about what we're doing. And so I decided to just have a set point of information, or, you know, then I thought, no, that's not even good enough, because you need to talk to people. You can read, it makes no difference. So I set up a buddy system. So I've got all these friends who will talk to other people. I've got a little secret group on Facebook that when I know somebody's definitely genuine, I'll add them to the group. There's a criteria almost that, you know, people have to fill. The way that they, you know, the talk is the most important thing. There's certain elements in the experiences that are undeniable. You know, I don't want to give them all away, because if I do that, then, you know, it's just like telling somebody the answers to the exam they're going to take. You know, we need to keep it as separate as we can, because so many people are either wrong or lying and wanting attention or wanting to sound good. I read stupid things on the internet all the time. I've seen one woman saying, oh, I've got an alien implant in my neck and it sets off alarms at airports. It's like, shut up. No, you haven't, and no, it doesn't. And if it did, and you had, you wouldn't think it was funny. You know, and those are the things that we need to just, I just can't even begin to tell you how much it angers me that we have all this soup and nobody tells them. No, there's nobody to sort of police this subject. There's no, there's no rules or standards or regulations and nothing. Everything else is totally regulated. But in this, anyone can say and do anything, and they always do as well. And it's about time people started telling them to knock it on the head, because we haven't got time. We're all struggling so much that it's just more crap to wade through. And I think we all know, we can be discerning enough to know when somebody's talking rubbish and actually just tell them. Well, you're on the internet, what can they do? They can't punch you on the nose for it. So I've got a favourite little saying that's sent. My friend Lynn actually sent it to me after I was saying, why aren't people looking at us? We are all the clues. Looking in the sky, trying to film and photograph these little flashes of light that are never really going to amount to anything. You can't prove alien existence from an outside of a craft. So, and this is the saying, the quote it is actually, we are the message and we are the evidence. It seems almost a conspiracy that investigators would chase the dream of getting their hands on the nuts and bolts and smoking guns of the UFO, while we, the living evidences of the presence, we're gestating in the miracle wombs of change. Abductees are like children. As we toddled, disoriented in a world that ignored us for the dazzle of new technologies, muse babble was our language. But now we are beginning to find our voices, and it's down the red field. And it's true. Because I don't know why, I don't know why I do this. I haven't a clue. I can't help myself. And all I do is talk. And people talk to me. I've had one lady recently get in touch, and she told me of her experiences because she's seen an Amash video that I did. And it's 43 years since she had her first experience, and she's told no one. Apart from me. That should never have to happen. We should never be left in a place where we're just rotting in our own minds. They'd be quite happy if we all just went off and jumped off a bridge or whatever, because then, it's when we start talking and we start finding out our truths, instead of waiting for some researcher or some government, acknowledgement. We don't need that. We don't. We've just, why do we need it? We can just look after our own, which is what we have been doing. But definitely the shift is now, because more witnesses are becoming the researchers, because we are sick and tired of waiting for people who are promising answers and salvation to come up with the goods. Because when you've got no answers, what can you do? All these experts in a field of no answers, Am I doing all right for time?
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So, we're kind of like living now in this societal structure that's like this mad hybrid of an Orwellian smash. And I don't think really any of us know what to do. I remember my dad saying about 1979 when we were watching Star Trek, oh, we'll have this technology one day, but not in our lifetime, maybe 100 years. I just want to show him my phone now, I can talk to a computer. It is Star Trek, it is now, that future is now, And I think a lot of what we're going through is a kind of shock of all this technological advancement, and it's all, to me, it seems like shiny distractions, from the bigger picture. We're all looking down like this at our phones. Well, I'm not, I'm usually like that with it. Because I can't stop looking up. But, let's see. One of the things that, one of the experience that I had was about 2007, 2008, about 2007. And I woke up, and I was in bed, I woke up and I got my legs in the air, and I got my arm in the air, and I laughed myself because I thought I was acting out a dream, I don't know. And then I would become aware that there was somebody at the bottom of the bed. And I said to him, put the light on, put the light on, put the light on. Thinking, if they put the light on, I'd be able to move. And then I just went back to sleep. But I remember seeing in my arm a green dot of light here. And then I thought the next day, well, that can't be in my room because I've got a street light outside my room. My room's always orange and this room was grey. And it had you hear about the round ceiling. Well, I thought about this a lot over the years, and I actually think that this round ceiling thing is actually because we've not got our eyes open properly. And it's the curvature of our eyelids make it seem as if this, wherever we are, has a dome ceiling. maybe they have, but I know for a fact that I was looking through my, I could see my eyelids there. And then I was at the Exopolitics conference last year, and I was listening to the lady, Sonia, who I don't know if you've seen it, she disappears from the bed, she caught herself on CCTV, she just vanishes, whoop, covers go down, 30 minutes later, whoop, covers come up. So I'm listening, and she's back in the bed, but all the time, my husband's there, I think, it's amazing footage, you should have a look on the internet, try and find it. But everybody's said that's not real, blah, blah, blah. But I talked to her for 4 days before she told me about this footage, and I knew she was genuine because of the way that she spoke. So then, cut back to the conference, and she's talking about this experience where she woke up and there's all these green lights everywhere. And I thought, well, I had a green light. Well, I'll have a look at green lights because I've been looking into blue lights, of all the blue that I've seen in the experience in Lincoln. So I thought, well, I wonder if there's any sort of applications for green lights. I had a little Google, dear darling Google, green light therapy, approved for medical use in Japan in May last year for pelvic health in women and prostate health in men. And I thought, wow, that's quite interesting. And then somebody sent me a document, DNA frequency modulated laser rays. I can't believe I got that out in one go. And this is about a machine that you can set to vibrate at the frequency of any cell, be it kidney, liver, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, well, all the blokes, well, not all of them, but you really remember the old probe jokes and that. But I realised that, well, if this green light was being emitted from one of these things and it was next to the prostate, it would actually repair and make the prostate a healthy organ again, and the same for the ovaries in the woman. So, but then it doesn't work in vitro, which is in the womb, so you can't work on the baby. So I'm thinking, well, this is probably why the women get taken more than the men, because the men only need their sperm and the DNA repairing in their sperm, whereas women, it's the eggs and then it's the baby, blah, blah, blah. So they work on the mother as the baby's being built with these things. And it's just an idea, I'm not saying this is science facts, it's just something that I thought, well, I wonder if this is the case. Because for whatever their agenda is, which they definitely have one, they obviously need us to be in better shape than we are. And we have all these pharma companies now and all the crap in the air that's poisonous. Breathing will kill you, not smoking, especially with all the radiation from Fukushima, etc. So we know we're, as a race, deteriorated because of the atmosphere that we're living in. And it seems to me that for whatever reason they need us, they are actually repairing our DNA in a sense. And when people say, I'm an indigo child or my child's indigo child, and all these, they say all these have these abilities and they're so intelligent, etc. Well, our DNA actually reflects, our intelligence is a reflection of the state of our DNA. So people are becoming more intelligent and more connected to things and more aware of things because the DNA is in a better state than it was before. Not genetically superior, just repaired, So I wouldn't have even known any of that or thought any of that if I hadn't been to one of these things where we all get together and we all talk. And the connections are made there, and friendships for life as well. People that I've met at these conferences, they're going to be my friends forever, And that's what we do, we all support each other. And I think we just need to be a little bit more cohesive with it, a bit more of a structure, and change the language that we use, because when I hear alien abduction, it just makes me cringe, but I wouldn't know what else to call it, to be honest, experiencer. Covers the whole range of experiences that we have, but it kind of dilutes what it is to be an abductee as well, because let's face it, it's not nice being taken from your bed and waking up with things like this. These bruises were from Lincoln. And they had actually, you couldn't really tell them, they got worse. This was the next day when I found them. There was puncture marks as well within those. These photos are not that good, but and then another time I have no idea where these came from. They were all the way up my arm, and it took 2 days for them to come out. And they were just getting worse and worse. I mean, I have not not done that to myself, that big cut. This arm was just absolutely bruised all the way with a big cut there. And then a little while later on my leg, the same pattern down here, like this. And then this was just recently, only a couple of weeks ago. I'll put them in a negative image because you see how, actually, I mean, that is like something's hit me on in the line. But the whole thing was just a massive bruise. And then all the little ones as well, look, you know, it's just, how does that happen when you're in bed? And that is a mystery dot that I've had for 14 years, which is around about the time of the Wales experience. It's just like a blue dot here. It's not a broken vein because it's never changed in all that time. And then a friend who's a tattoo artist who told me he thought it was a tattoo. Why would I have a tattoo in my armpit? A little dot like that, it's like, you know, just doesn't make any sense. So that's frightening when you wake up with that. And then today I still see them, and I have experiences. I mean, I had one a couple of months ago. I felt like somebody put an electric toothbrush in the centre of my brain, and I was in my bed, and I couldn't move. I could move. I couldn't move very much. I was really trying to struggle to get up, but I couldn't. It was like being pinned to the bed by something in my head, and it's just vibrating. Oh, it's just awful. And I'm looking in the doorway, and I thought that I had a Power Ranger there, or somebody, a biker, because somebody was stood there with a helmet on, and you know, like an all-in-one suit. So it looked to me like one of those Power Ranger bikers, you know, they have all the get-up on, but it was all just silver, and I'm thinking, you know, I'm actually thinking while I'm seeing this, and there's the helmet, and the helmet comes all the way down a really long point. I mean, aliens in helmets and suits, I mean, give me a break, you know. If anyone else was saying this to me, I'd be going, whatever. But there it is in my doorway, and it looked at me, and I just got this poof, like a thought bomb. People say it's like telepathic communication. Well, I won't know. This is the only incident. It was like a thought bomb. And that thought bomb was the helmet was for breathing, and also to stop whatever signals are in the air that disrupt their mental patterns and can make them become separate from each other because they have a hive mind. And this suit with the reflective material, which reflects all of the Blu-ray and all of the light and all the Wi-Fi that we have in our house, these things affect them. This is what this thought bomb was. Now, whether it's actually true or I just made it all up and I'm completely psychotic, I have no idea. But you know, why I have recollection of what I'm thinking at the time. I'm trying to sit up. I'm saying, no, go away, leave me alone. And I'm trying to get up, and then all of a sudden I think, kids, shut up, you wake the kids up. And that's between you and them, and you can't move. If I'm thinking these things, how can that be a dream? How can that just be nothing, something in my mind, you know? I'm seeing something going through this, I can't move. What is it? I don't know. And then we come to... Sorry. 5 minutes, brilliant. Right, I'll do it. The things that I see. At the bottom of our street, I had a cup of coffee with my neighbour, and I've seen this thing over there, and I thought it was a red kite over the allotments. Got an allotment down at the bottom, and they love the mice, etc. And I looked again, it's still there, and I thought, it's not a bird, it's still there. I said to my friend, Mel, can you see that? She went, yeah. As soon as we started talking about it, it starts moving forwards, backwards, up, down, that. And it moved right in front of her. So she ran in and got her camera, and here we go. We've got 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, sorry, 2, 3. There we go. Can't really see anything up there, yeah. And there it is. There's one of them anyway. And that is basically under a couple of filters and not done anything other than just shift the colours about to try and bring it out, see what it is. What the hell is that? Changing shape. That's just to show you, all of that is cloud. That's to show you that there's some mass to this object. Onto all 3 of them. When I did the edge section, there's more of them all. You can't even see. Oh, that was another one. That's quite spectacular. Fireball over Leeds. Even NASA and finally does not explain that. They actually conceded to Russ Callahan that, yeah, alright, he's officially a UFO. But, no one's ever been able to explain that, and the only other one that's ever been seen was one over Wales. So keep having those experiences, keep seeing things. I mean, that was a cloud. But all of that other white in the background was a cloud as well. But when I took them, because I knew there was something not right about this cloud, it looked like it had a little thing hanging off it with another one. This one there, that was the one at the forefront, and this was the thing that looked like it was hanging off the bottom of it. I do have all the originals of this. And this, I mean, this was about 6 feet off the ground. I'm just walking down Dewsbury Road in Leeds, and I thought, what the hell is that? All of that was waving about. Like, I took one picture, like, just like I did with the other one. I don't even know why I don't take more, just like click and gone. And that, no idea. That was very bizarre. So I don't really have to go very far to see something weird. And, you know, and that. 13 spheres, that was at the top of my house, that. I took a photograph of the chemtrails because I absolutely can't stand them. I go mad about those. And all these appeared. I've had that looked at, and Win Keach will tell you, I send pictures to him all the time, and he goes, I don't know what it is, but it's not flapping. That is another one. And this, you can't see anything. And then there's two somewhere on here, they're very tiny, there's one of them. So they're hiding in all this stuff as well. So now, because of all this, I decided I'm going to run support groups for people. So if any of you are affected by any of the things that I've spoken about, or anything else even, sidekick episodes, blah blah blah, all the rest of it, you find it hard to do, and I just want people to talk to who are like you. I know loads of them. I've got my own website, sachachristie.com. If you go on there, you can access just about everywhere. And just send me an email, or, you know, try and support these groups and be nice to each other. And, you know, if somebody tells you they've had an experience, you know when somebody's lying or not. You just need to look in their eyes, and, you know, if they can't relay in a way that, you know, they're waving their arms about and they're knitting the story together, you know that they're real, you know that they're genuine. And if you are a contactee, abductee, experience, or whatever you want to call yourselves, when you meet another one, you absolutely know for sure whether they are or not. But, you know, it's a tough world to live in. The world makes no sense. So, you know, we've got to try and make some sense of this. This is our world. This is where we have to live. Thank you for listening.
This is my final call to all of you to help. It's not just from me, though. I'm working with some amazing distinguished colleagues. Astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Dr. Scott Jones, Aerospace Executive Abe Krieger, Commander Will Miller, and the former Minister of Defense of Canada, the Honorable Paul Hellyer, and with so many of you who have made contact with me. But now we really need your help. We've got this one moment in time when we can actually call for a ban on all space-based weapons and get a treaty signed that will do the job. We're ready to travel to 9 world leaders. This treaty is done. You can get more information from peaceandspace.com, but we have this shorter website set up now that's called peace-treaty.com. This is a short version for those of you who can just get a quick viewpoint of what it is that we're doing. And the basic understanding is clear. To ban all space-based weapons means we can actually achieve world peace in 2012. We don't have to wait for years. This is the time to set the new platform, and we've got it made. It's in the treaty. We have a chance now to transform the entire war industry into a space industry and other industries without weapons in space. We have a chance now to get all of the technology of the space age and the information applied directly to solving the problems of human needs, the environment, and new energy. We only have one chance at doing this before weapons are placed in space. But whether you believe they're in space or not, whether you believe the cosmos cultures are evil aliens or not, really doesn't matter. What matters is that we have one moment in time when we can get a ban on all space-based weapons, and that's what this is about. It's a call to you to help us. All we need is the funding for our tickets the transportation, the hotel rooms, food, and taxis to get to the 9 world leaders. And we'll go. We're ready to go on this journey. It's the last card. It's the last call. Please, will you donate and help us get on this trip? We're not calling for extra money. We have documentarians who are volunteering their time and services to put a film together that will show you the whole journey. We're going to make that whole thing public. I know that there are 9 world leaders who will sign this treaty. We're told by people at the United Nations that more than half the countries will sign on right away. And this will become world law with just the 9 world leader signatories. This is the first treaty that's ever acknowledged the indigenous cultures and the cosmos cultures, and it will do the job. We can have peace on this garden planet. We just have to transform that old consciousness, and this is going to raise it. Imagine the celebration. So please help us. This is my call. This is our call. This is all of us participating in this together for peace on Earth and in space. We can do this now with your help. Thank you.